everybody. It's Abby here from Cusco on the 5th of February 2023, where it has been a very quiet Sunday in the city of Cusco. And there's been truce declared by protesters. Tregua. Truce is sort of the closest translation that I can give to that. For transit, they're not going to be blocking any roads. Weekends moving forward for the duration of the indefinite strikes. When they say paro indefinido, that means they don't know how long they plan to continue this. The statement is that they plan to continue it until elections are moved up, until Dina Boluarte, the president, resigns, and until Congress is dissolved and there are new elections for Congress as well. Sadly for the protesters, it does not appear that the current government is at all interested in moving up elections in earnest. Dina Boluarte, the president, says she's not going to step down. No way, no how. A majority of Congress is opposed to moving up elections at all, it seems, citing many different reasons why, some of which seem rational and some of which seem less rational. Some members of Congress are, saying pretty extreme things, and many of them are racial and classist in nature, so none of that is calming anybody down as far as protesters are concerned. People are getting tired. Protesters are getting tired. People living amid protests are getting tired. And, I would say that protests are getting more attention, even internationally, where you have groups like Amnesty International saying, wait a minute, we've got to look at the human rights abuses that are being alleged. You've got the papal nuncio, who is the voice of the Pope from the Catholic Church, saying what's going on here is extreme repression of the poor, and that is not good. You've got the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights saying that there are problems happening here and all of that kind of stuff. But none of that has any effect on what's going on in government. So this is pretty stressful. The government has just declared a 60-day state of emergency in pretty much all of the south of Peru, and pretty much everywhere where the protests have been widespread, which is, including the area that I'm in. And basically what the state of emergency means is that military force can be used, domestically, and that the military will work in support of the national police, with the exception of the region of Puno, where it is going to be the other way around, where the military is going to be directing operations and the national police will be in support of them. None of that is all that comforting from the perspective of anybody who wants to, not see things escalate. But in general, I would have to say that for the most part, here in the city of Cusco, what I have seen in terms of policing action has been, fairly, well, certainly restrained compared to regular policing action in the United States would be, and certainly restrained compared to what's been going on in some other parts of Peru. Only one person has died in Cusco, and there has been a lot less tear gassing and a lot of that kind of stuff, which doesn't mean that there is zero, but there has been less of that. What I think is a little weird is how much, so normally you always see, normally in Peru there are protests all the time. People go out to the street and protest, and there are marches and that kind of thing, because people here understand that they do have that right and all of that. So you see lots of protests, and usually police will accompany them if nothing else, to prevent potential brawls from breaking out. Like if a protest is marching past a group of people who are standing on the sidewalk who don't agree with the protesters, and there's name calling and shouting and aggression and a lot of that kind of stuff, police tend to keep that from escalating to the point of brawls in the streets. That has not happened as reliably in the past couple of months as it normally would. So that's a little concerning. That's a little concerning. It's especially concerning because there have been brawls in the streets. And now I've watched videos of a lot of these incidents from a variety of different perspectives, like the same incident from multiple perspectives. I myself, having fallen down the stairs and become injured by that, am not going outside right now at all, which is super annoying. I may be going out tomorrow to get x-rays and see if I have cracked anything. But I have been continuing to, watch things coming in from people I know and from news sources and so forth. And what I'm seeing is more and more that we have. I'll try to kind of generalize this as much as possible. What I'm seeing more and more of is that we have protesters who come in from the more rural areas. Remember that Cusco is the regional capital. It's like the state capital, and it is a city like about the size of Oakland, California. And so or about the size of Atlanta, Georgia. So we're talking, those are the sizes of cities that's like what we're looking at. Okay. So people come in from the more rural areas in groups, and then they march peacefully, carrying banners that identify themselves and where they are from, and what organizations they belong to, and also signs with what they're asking, right? And they are asking for new elections immediately for both president and Congress, ASAP. They are asking for the president to resign as one possible way to get to new elections more rapidly, and they don't believe she should stay in office, having overseen 60 plus dead in a little less than 2 months. They want Congress closed down and disbanded, and a new Congress elected. And they want an end to the killings. Killings do seem to have eased up a little bit. So that's something. And they want a constitutional assembly to be formed to discuss changes to the 1993 Constitution that is present in Peru right now. So this is a young democracy that turns 30 this year, right? The Constitution turns 30 this year. It was ruled throughout the 90s by Alberto Fujimori, who ruled Peru as a dictator. And there's a lot of, real challenges here. So anyway, we're seeing people from the country come in and do these protests, for the most part, peaceably. We're also seeing roads in and out of Cusco be blockaded, right? And roadblocks. So that means stuff can't get through, right? That means insumos de la primera necesidad, items of the first necessity, aren't getting through. So that can mean gasoline and diesel, fuel for cars, propane gas in tanks, liquid propane for cooking and for hot water heaters, because of the mountainous terrain and seismic conditions and other government infrastructure project logistics and all of that kind of stuff. Even though a lot of natural gas is produced within the south of Peru, it is not. It is more expensive here than it is in Lima, for example. So people in Lima can get metered gas service. They can get, a gas line right to their house or apartment or whatever. You cannot get that in Cusco. you have to buy your propane tanks. You can get a 10 kilo propane tank or a 45 kilo propane tank for the most part. Those are what you can get. And mostly individual people have 10-gallon propane tanks. And when one runs out, you call the gas guy and he comes on a motorcycle and brings you a tank and swaps it out. And that's how that works. And so those tanks have not been available, and none of the gas delivery services are working. They've all just shut off their phones. They're just, no, I can't even. It's too much. So instead, people have to go and wait in long lines to try and get a tank of gas to run hot water heaters, if they have gas hot water heaters, and to cook with if they're using gas stoves, which most people do at this point in time. So all of that has been going on, and you can't get from place to place, right? In general, you can on the weekends because they're giving truce on the weekends, and they've agreed to make that a regular thing for the next several weeks at least, that they foresee protests to continue. And who is they? Well, so those are labor union leaders and organizers of specific associations and groups and unions who are party to strike actions. But a lot of protests are also fully grassroots protests where groups of people in a rural community decide that they are going to go into Cusco and march, and they are not doing so on the order of a labor union organizer or anything like that. They are all independent of each other. So this poses some challenges because there isn't like one group of people who the government could negotiate with. You can't go and say, all right, well, we're calling the leaders of these strikes into the negotiating table, and we're gonna talk this out and come to an agreement of some kind. That's not readily possible because it isn't clear who has that type of leadership sway in this whole situation. So that does make things complicated. But anyway, so these groups come in to Cusco, and they're protesting in Cusco where food hasn't necessarily been getting through, where markets can't necessarily be open, where people's businesses are closing because they don't have gas to operate, because they don't have the food to cook their menu items at their restaurant, or gas to do it with, because workers can't arrive via public transit that's shut down because it's unsure what's going to happen with people marching in the streets, whether cars can get around, all of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of shutdown that's happened. Additionally, a really large proportion of Cusco's income comes from tourism, and a lot of people say, no, it doesn't. I'm running a store that isn't patronized by tourists. It's only just regular people come in and shop here for their regular groceries and whatever they need. Okay, but a lot of those regular people make their money working in the tourism business, working in restaurants, working in hotels, working as tour guides, working as working in ways that are tourism adjacent, right? So that's a huge decline in the amount of money that is circulating in the city in general, because nobody can make any money. It's like everybody is laid off, right? And in fact, huge numbers of workers are laid off. Like every hotel that's closed has laid off. And one of the things to remember about all of this is that if it's a large hotel chain, they can afford to shut down their hotels in one area in one city and just not do business because they've got hotels in other places, and everything load balances. They don't have to care. But if this is somebody's small business, and it's the only thing that they do, then they don't have that latitude. So a lot of people are going to go out of business. That is just a fact. A lot of people are going to go out of business, and tourism isn't going to be back rapidly. And even once everything is settled into normality, it's not going to come back fast anyway. As one street vendor pointed out to me the other day, all those people who canceled their plans, they already had that time off work to go on vacation. And so they didn't go cancel their entire vacation and change their whole schedule for when they had time off work. They got whatever they could for a refund and went someplace else. And who knows if they're ever going to come to Peru after that. And right. So that's really tough. And this is also a reason why people have asked me to try to continue doing these updates and talking about what it's actually like being here and what's going on. Because it is challenging in lots of ways. It's challenging in lots of ways, and opinions really vary. So let's say you are somebody who cannot take a hot shower and you cannot cook a hot meal because you can't get gas to cook, and your business is shut down and there's no money coming in. So even if you could buy gas, you can't afford to, and you don't know when you're going to be able to, and you just had to let go on long-term indefinite vacation your entire staff, and you feel like crap about that and all of this kind of stuff. And then here come people marching down the street saying, close Congress, president, quit. The president should resign. We need a constitutional assembly. Well, you might go out and take to the streets and say, all right, you lazy jerks, go back to work, get a job, do something. We want to work. We need money. Why are you doing this? You're just making problems for us here in Cusco, for honest people. I'm just an honest person. And things can get really heated, and tempers can get really heated. And we have seen exactly that kind of thing happening, as well as seeing people who are obvious instigators, who are like lining up on the side of the street next to where protests are going by, and they are slinging racial insults and saying, all right, you indigenous dogs, like, get back to work, you filthy scum. I mean, like, really horrible stuff. That's moderate. I'm moderating, what I'm saying. But I mean, really awful stuff. And then in some cases, people in the protests are taking the bait and swinging at people, right? And in other cases, people in the crowd on the sidelines are taking the bait and throwing things and swinging at people. And in other cases, there are paid agitators and instigators are believed to be paid. There are a couple of instances in Lima where they have found people paying agitators. So there's a lot of this heavy stuff going on. And then into the mix, come a lot of people saying, well, we just need to hope that people are going to be able to be nonviolent in their resistance and so forth. And then you have other people saying, well, blocking roads is violence. Well, breaking windows is violence. And so there's a lot of debate about that as well, right? And so it's tough. So I would say we are seeing in the kind of terms that we would use discussing something like this in a history class 50 years from now, we would probably say, and at that point the working class and the middle class could not come together, and they were separated, and so the lower 2/3 of the power and wealth scale in Peru were set against each other, which allowed the upper class and the wealthy and the powerful political class to just do whatever they wanted and wait it out. That is sort of where things look like from a historical retrospective point. So that means a lot of things could happen at this point in time. And the question becomes, how long can regular people in Peru hold out? Now, the wealthy, they can do whatever they want. They can hold out forever. People who are making 30,000 soles a month in Congress don't care, and they are never going to vote to lose their jobs. That's just not going to happen, right? And the president is never going to step down. She's just not gonna. And then people are saying, well, why don't any international forces try and act upon this or put pressure on anybody? Who who do you think is going to do that? The USA? Please, let's not even start that conversation. And also, they have said pretty plainly that they back the Boluarte government, and while they back her, they have not suggested that she maybe take care to do a little less killing or anything like that. They have not expressed concern over that kind of stuff. So Amnesty International, they've expressed concern. Who else? Who do you think has power in a circumstance like this? The big mining companies, well, they've closed up shop and closed up operations. And again, that doesn't mostly affect them and their investors to the extent that it affects the miner who is now out of work, right? Or the truck driver who can't be driving convoys of copper ore from one place to another. So that's tough. Big tour agencies, like who? There aren't big tour agencies like that. What do you think? Marriott is going to come in and be like, okay, you've got to go and listen to the people. No, I'm not seeing that. I've never seen them do that anywhere, right? I'm not seeing, the Hilton Garden Inn owners of that particular franchise taking to the streets and saying, "Yeah, that's right, respect all the hotel workers." I'm not seeing that, right? I've never heard of that happening anywhere. And the thing is, large chains have the latitude to wait it out because they aren't gonna go broke or starve while they wait it out. But somebody's small 10-room hotel can go under. A guy who drives a 10-passenger van that he's invested in and it's his main thing, he can't keep driving, and if he's got a loan on that van, he can lose it, right? It can get repossessed. So what's he supposed to do? So everybody is out trying to figure out what they're supposed to do and how that's going to go. So how long can people last? Well, people in the country can go back to farming and still live a whole lot from farming. And so they can hold out a whole lot longer than people in the middle class can in Peru, I would say. So all of that, is tricky stuff. Saturday and Sunday, we've seen no movement, of course, from Congress or from the president or anything like that. There's no real reason to expect that they're suddenly going to take a different approach and start actively working to present a political solution to the problems that are going on. It seems that the current strategic thinking is, wait it out. And that could continue to get tense. It's already tense, but it could get tenser. And so we don't know. Anyway, so the general word is that strike action is going to be on Monday through Friday for the foreseeable future, but they're going to let essential products like gasoline and cooking gas and food and medicine trucks come through on the weekends, and that's the deal. It's really interesting to walk around Cusco and look at stuff, because if I go up to the tourist area, it's empty. Nothing's open. Everything's closed. It's just everything's shut down. But if I go to the Cusqueño areas of an evening to have, a cappuccino at a place that it mostly serves the Cusqueño audience, those places are hopping. They're full. They're not lacking for business. So that is another interesting whole thing to think about and to look at. It's tough. And then in the midst of all of this, there are major festivals that need to go on, right? Patron saint festivals and that kind of thing. And those are still happening, but with lower attendance. I guess one bright spot with all of this is that there are currently 6 people in the hospital for COVID in the entire region of Cusco, and there have been no deaths from COVID in several weeks, and nobody is in extreme COVID distress, and there's a very, very low number of cases, and new vaccines are on their way, have already arrived in Cusco for medical professionals, and so those campaigns are going to be ramping up as well. So life goes on. And I guess that's one of the really key things about all of this is life does go on, even when it is disrupted. And it's definitely disrupted. And so I just want to reiterate, whether you agree with it or not, that is the objective of protest, is to disrupt normality and cause people to have to respond to the things that are being protested for and about. And so I'm seeing some people say, well, why aren't they just being completely peaceful? And from where I sit, I'm seeing some very peaceful marches. I'm seeing some very peaceful marches, and I'm not even seeing that many infiltrators and agitators out there in the mix. Like I've said this before, where 1,000 people, 2,000 people march past my apartment, and they're all perfectly peaceful, and they're holding hands and singing songs of protest or whatever. And then after they go by, they're followed by 5 or 6 young men who are sort of kicking trash bags and stealing traffic cones and doing that kind of thing, and maybe rattling steel security doors on stores and doing a lot of that kind of stuff. And in certain very high traffic areas, some of those agitators have been doing things like throwing rocks at moving vehicles and that kind of stuff. And there have been a number of arrests here in Cusco of people who have been doing that kind of thing. And they have been found not to be part of the mobilizations that they're walking with or next to, right? So they're not from the same place. Nobody knows them, and a lot of that kind of stuff. So that's weird. So who are they? That's something that isn't clearly known, and that's perturbing. There was one incident in a rural town where the Ronda Campesina, which is the grassroots rural militia, identified in the midst of a march a guy who they know to be part of one of the sort of secret black ops police organizations that works on a road that has some drug traffic go on it, right? And so the people who work in that militia force were like, oh no, you get out of this protest. You are not putting my people in danger. And the guy was like, what? I'm just walking here. I'm just a regular tourist. And everyone else was like, no, you're not. And apparently a number of people recognized him as a kind of a black ops police guy. Why exactly he would have been there is anybody's guess. Nobody knows. And all of that sort of stuff. And so those are sort of some of the things that are going on. I don't know, as far as what this week will bring. I'm hopeful to finally make it to my dentist appointment. That was supposed to be in January. I have some business meetings I've got to actually make happen, and I'm hoping to do a few other things, and then go spend a good chunk of time in Ollantaytambo for Compadres, which is a holiday, a festival, and maybe relax and be a little bit less stressed out for a bit. Everyone's stressed out. I don't think there's anywhere anybody can go that's not stressed out right now. So, that's where it's at. Yeah, I guess I was going to say one more thing. Since there isn't a cohesive leadership structure or formal national leadership to any of the protest stuff, there also isn't really anybody directing it or training protesters or telling people how to engage or teaching people strategies to not lose their temper when somebody slings racial insults at them for a long span of time and when things get heated. And so that's pretty tough. And there aren't any resources really to help people in the middle class business districts that protests are going through either, right? So everybody's business is in the toilet. And everybody wants to know, how come the sol, the national currency of Peru, is holding so steady against the dollar and other international currencies? Everyone thinks that's really weird that is the case. It really has hardly fluctuated at all throughout the course of the past 2 months. So anyway, I guess that's the state of things. Yeah, I highly recommend, if you are in Cusco, head on out to some of those restaurants that desperately need your business, because you'll probably get some great deals. And if you have a flexible itinerary, you can do a whole lot of spectacular and amazing things, and all of that sort of stuff. So again, I don't see danger, like actual danger, like where you could get hurt, like by falling down the stairs. No, but seriously, I don't see actual danger or threats of confrontations for foreign tourists or even domestic tourists right now, in the Cusco area. Mostly what I see is the risk of your itinerary having to be flexible and changeable, and maybe you don't get to go everywhere. And the main disruptions and the main issues are for people who live here. Like, I know a guy who just had some medical info come back, and they say he might have cancer, and he's got to go get a whole bunch of other lab work done and a whole lot of that kind of stuff, and he's scared shitless, and labs are open or not open, and schedules are crazy and all of that kind of stuff. He's pretty stressed out. I know people who have rent to pay on stores and buildings, and they've made nothing, like no money came in January, nothing. And they've got staff and rent and bills, and what are they going to do? And they're totally stressed out. And so, I mean, everyone is stressed. Everyone who actually lives here is stressed. And yeah, that's the deal. But you can have a pretty good time doing tourist stuff right now. Anyway, I guess that's it. I'll report in tomorrow with more information on how things look here in Cusco.